first things first, from what you've heard about the Queen's speech and given there's limited details so far, what do you make of the wording of what the government is attempting to achieve here?
Well, firstly, there's lots of things in the Queen's speech, and it is about, we want to see, putting people before politics. I'd love to comment on immigration and lots of other proposals, the lack of gambling, but you've asked me on conversion therapy. And actually what we're seeing there is we're happy in terms of it being consulted upon. The Evangelical Alliance has always urged the government to honour two commitments that it's made. The one is to end harmful and abusive practices, but it has also said it would safeguard spiritual support for those who want it. And I think a consultation process allows those two aims to be met.
You must be delighted that there's still quite a big loophole in this law that will allow you to continue telling people that it's possible to change their sexuality.
So I don't think that protecting human rights is a loophole or an exemption. I mean, I know there are some campaigners who want to ban prayer, and if they want to do that, they need to say how they want to do that. I think protecting.
You still want to tell people that it's possible to change their sexuality, don't you? Fundamentally, that's what you want to be able to do here.
No, fundamentally, I want to make sure that people can still pray with one another. And what we've said is that that is a human right, freedom of religion. And the idea of banning that or saying that that's a loophole or exemption, I don't think is helpful. We said
pray to change their sexuality, though, fundamentally is what you want to be able to do.
So the government needs to be able to honour those two commitments and extend spiritual support. Those who want to put limits on that or ban that then need to explain where they think those limits are and how they want to stop the practice of pastoring or supporting others.
But do you or don't you think that it's possible to change someone's sexuality through prayer? That's what you want to be able to do, isn't it?
But no. So what we want to do, if somebody wants to come along and be prayed for, they should have the freedom to pray for that. And if they want to be prayed for certain things, they should have the freedom to ask for that prayer. So if somebody says, I would like to be prayed, Peter, I've decided I want to live a celibate lifestyle, I can pray for them as long as they're heterosexual. But if this ban goes through and they were same-sex attracted, I couldn't. That's actually discrimination against those who are same-sex attracted. That doesn't make any sense. And I think that's why we need to have the consultation so we get a clear definition of what's meant by conversion therapy. And then we can actually discuss the details beyond that.
But the end goal of the prayer that you support is often to change someone's sexuality, not to encourage them to be celibate. And you do want to do that, don't you? You want to have the freedom to be able to change someone's sexuality or tell them that it's possible to change.
So what we want to do is have the freedom to be able to pray with people. And then the person who's coming along for prayer is the person who says, this is what I'd like to be prayed for. And we want the freedom to be able to pray in line with that. So one of the key things the government has done in this, it seems to have introduced the word coercive in. That's been discussed a number of times before. So obviously something that's coercive should be something that's ended. And we're quite happy to support any ban on that. That seems to be an important caveat that's been put in by the government, and that would seem to be helpful. But again, until we see the full consultation, it's very difficult to comment in the abstract.
What will you be arguing for in this consultation now? Because we expect that it will be quite a comprehensive consultation in the coming few weeks.
Honestly, very simply to say to the government, do the two things you said you do. End harmful and abusive practices. I have absolutely no desire to support in any way. Those should be ended, and we need to see the evidence that those have been ended. We've had the survey. Unfortunately, the government survey didn't define what conversion therapy was, and it didn't ask people when they'd gone through it. So we don't have good information and data on that. What we'd like to see is that ended, and then also the clarity that the government's also said, which is that it will allow support, spiritual support, pastoral support for those who want it.
Where is the line for you between helpful pastoral support and what you would consider to be conversion therapy?
But I'm not trying to be this, but you have to flip the question. I'm not the one trying to ban prayer. So those who are trying to ban prayer have to be clear where they think that line is. They need to put that in the consultation. And only then do we get to engage once we work out what the government's proposing. We're saying we're supportive of this desire to end it, but you've got to be careful how you do it. Otherwise, what you're going to do inadvertently is ban people from praying with one another.
But what are you trying to protect, though? To flip it back onto you, you're saying you don't want a ban to get involved with religious freedoms. What are you trying to protect? Are you trying to protect the right of a pastor to tell someone that they can change their sexuality? You're not answering that question when I'm asking you it.
We're trying to protect the right of pastors to be able to speak about marriage between a man and a woman. That's a legally protected idea. So we want support to be able to teach in line with that. And if somebody comes along and looks for prayerful support to live in conjunction with what they believe the Bible is teaching on this, then a pastor or a church member should be free to do that, as long as there's not coercion involved, and as long as that's not something that's harmful and abusive, and the government's going to deal with that And we believe legislation largely has done that, but there may be some loopholes that do need closed on that. But it also has to balance protection of freedom and religion for people to be able to go and seek prayerful support.
But just to be really clear here, Peter, you do think that there should be an allowance here to pray with someone to help them change their sexuality, specifically to change their sexuality?
Again, the allowance is to be able to pray with somebody in line with what that person wants prayer and support for. That's really important. That person has to have freedom. So what is being proposed is actually to limit the freedom of an individual to seek the support that they want in that moment. And then as a consequence of that, to stop somebody to pray for that. That's hugely important that we get that right. The idea it's an exemption, the idea that it's a loophole is to pit rights against one another and basically undermine the human rights of an individual to seek the support that they want.